in that area. Yeah.
Wow.
So, I mean, and listen, there are people, at 10 years on the show, I was on the show for a long time. There's people a lot longer. There's people who did the whole 17 years. People have done well over 100 episodes, No one left that show. You don't leave that show if you get a spot on it.
Were you with him when it ended?
No. No, I was with him about a week and a half before. So, no, I had good friends that were there.
I was in Chicago, and I woke up and I checked my phone, and I got a text from my friend Maynard Keenan from Tool, and Maynard is a Jiu-Jitsu brown belt and really loves Jiu-Jitsu, and he texted me. He said, so much for the Maynard versus Anthony Bourdain celebrity Jiu-Jitsu match. And that's the whole text. And, just sunk a pit in my stomach. And I just picked up my phone. I went into Google and I looked it up and I saw it. I'm just like, oh, fuck. I just couldn't believe it. I started crying. I think I called my wife. I think I called Maynard. I texted him. I called my wife. Called a few friends. Just like, just couldn't believe. When someone's just not there anymore. I didn't get to see him a lot, but I was just appreciated the fuck out of that dude. Like, I don't want to do anybody's TV show. But when I got a call from him, I was like, fuck yeah. What are we going to do? We're going to shoot pheasants and hunt and camp? And we're going to cook by the campfire? Fuck, I'm in, dude. Yeah. I'm in. I just really appreciated him as a genuine, unique person. Like, he's a genuine, rare person. And, that's what I got out of being able to spend some time with him and being able to talk to him and pick his brain. And he did my podcast once, and we always planned on doing it again, which we never got around to it because we both have ridiculous schedules. But just I would think about things differently because of him. Like, I would sometimes like hold things to his standards, and he like legitimately his appreciation for things and his enthusiasm for things changed the way I look at a lot of aspects of food and culture and even travel,
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, man. And I know he thought very highly of you, and that experience in Montana was fantastic, man.
So fun.
It's been a rough 3 months, and it's still hard for me to really contextualize it and put it together. It feels like, upside down world. Like, there's no, and he was he was a friend and a collaborator and but also just such an icon to me,
Yeah.
And that it's almost like, the sun disappears, or something.
Yeah.
It's something that is so just inherently
Part of life.
there and dependable and, so yeah, I mean, it's hard to describe how profound that's been.
I remember when he got into jiu-jitsu, I got psyched because I'm like, we got more to talk about now. Like, I could actually show him some shit, And he was always asking about things, He's really good at things. Remember when we were in Montana, we were rolling around on the dirt.
I know.
I was showing him stuff. Him and Josh. I was like when you're in here, like, here's what you can do. You can get, and he's like, oh yeah. He's like, he was so wide-eyed, I think it was before he even got his blue belt, or maybe it was like around blue belt. So he was super, super jacked about it, and he was doing it every day. I remember when we were filming, we were outside of Billings. Is that where we were? Where were we?
Yeah, well, where the hunt was?
Yeah.
The hunt, we were in, like, up in central Montana, you know.
Right.
So we kind of started in Billings, but we headed up towards central Montana.
He was training so often, and even on the road, that he traveled to a club. There was just a jiu-jitsu club in Bozeman.
Yeah.
And he found some guys, and he was rolling with these guys in Bozeman.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
I was like, damn, you're doing it every day?
Well,
He's
that
like,
was
every day.
For a long time on the show, that was a mandate. We find the local clubs and make sure that he had a place to roll.
He texted me from some European block country. He said he was shitting bone chips because he worked out with some old school Carlson Gracie guys they don't believe in rolling light. And it's all top game and smashing you. And he said, I'm shitting bone chips. But I admired that a guy could be 58 years old and decide, I'm going to learn jiu-jitsu and I'm going to be obsessed with it. And then he became addicted to it, which, you know, jiu-jitsu is a very beneficial thing to be addicted to, but it is absolutely an addiction. I've come back from injuries where I definitely shouldn't have been training yet, and I just wrap my arm up and just fucking get in there. People get super, super addicted to it, and he got addicted to it, just like he's been addicted to many things. He jumped right into the jiu-jitsu experience.
Yeah, man. Well, I'm glad he did. It was clearly like really good for him to us. I mean, I know very little about jiu-jitsu. I know what I know from Tony, you know.
Well, he got so slim.
Yeah.
He lost all that weight. All of a sudden he had a six-pack.
Stopped smoking.
Yeah.
You know, those were big things, man. And he looked great. He
got off statins.
Yeah.
He's no longer on any sort of medication.
Yeah.
He lost all that weight.
Yeah.
Cut all the carbs out.
Yeah.
He was just eating
just protein.
Crazy, man.
Yeah.
He looked so good.
He did look good. And also just the whole thing was kind of indicative of the way he was. I mean, he did things so passionately.
Yeah.
You know, whether it was travel and the world and soaking up all these experiences or jiu-jitsu or whatever. If he was into something, if something caught his attention, he was just so aggressive about knowledge, learning what he could, pulling everything out of it that he could.
It's just crazy to see someone do something that's that physically demanding.
Yeah, no
at
kidding.
58 with no background in athletics at all.
Yeah.
Like you could see when he was even when he was doing things, like when he went to Kurt Osiander's place and was rolling around, like he doesn't have a background in that, but he's just pushing himself to it.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I think that was true with everything, you know? I mean, if it was something that was interesting to him, he just went, you know? He
loved it, man. It was crazy. And I said, I remember texting him going, like, how deep you getting into it? He goes, real fucking deep. And he goes, I'm getting tapped out every day, but he goes, I'm giving guys half my age a real struggle. And he goes, and I'm loving it.
Yeah, and he talked about that a lot. I mean, I think he talked about like the failure as much as anything else. And he loved that, man.
Yeah.
Going in and,
getting smashed.
Yeah, but again, to his credit, we'd show up in these places, Bozeman, Montana, man, or Butte, I mean, geez, I think he rolled in Butte, Butte's a hard hitting town, man. And listen, I love Butte.
I love Butte too.
Much respect to anyone from Butte, but man, that's a hard hitting town, and he'd roll into these
real cowboys
places, and get the shit kicked out of him and show up on set all, sore and bruised and, oh man, you know, and then just jump into that.
It's just different for a guy who's 58. I mean, you got a guy who does it at 20. I admire anybody who does jiu-jitsu because it's a real humbling, ego-dissolving experience in a lot of ways because it makes you realize, like, all your illusions of how well you can defend yourself, they go out the window when someone just chokes you easily. And you're like, oh, great. I'm just a bitch running around this life thinking I'm a man. But the fact that he did it at 58 just showed what kind of a unusual dude he was.
Yeah, but what you just talked about there, I mean, what you're talking about with like the ego diminishing aspect of it, again, I think that was something that he took great pleasure in.
Yeah.
And I think that, if you look at the way he went through the world, one of the things that, I appreciated right off the bat, and one of the things that kept me around as long as I stayed around, was the fact that for Tony, I think that he was constantly trying to dismantle that persona, to say like, I'm not the focal point of this scene, or what we're interested in here, what I'm interested in talking about is out there. That's the camera's pointed away from me,
Right.
He was kind of a clearinghouse for all that information, and he was the root of the show, and it was his journey. But, ultimately, what was refreshing is he wasn't like working with some celebrity or host that was completely consumed by their own ego and their own, brand and how they were presented to the world.
That's so disgusting, right?
Yeah, dude, but it's everywhere.
It's
man.
everywhere. Yeah, he was very self-deprecating, and he had reverence for real artists and real masters, and that
total reverence.
It came across. Came across. I texted him about some guy. There was a photo of a restaurant, and I'm sure it's still on my phone. Some dude who's like a real famous guy, who's like some big-time chef character. And I was eating in this restaurant, and so I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? I guess it seems like it's a big deal. And so I texted him the photo of this cat right here.
Yeah.
Do you know who that guy is? What's that guy's name? So I said, who is that guy? He says, Marco Pierre White, made Ramsay cry like a bitch. All-time original rock star chef, genius, madman.
The original punk.
But that kind of text, like that's a Tony Bourdain text.
Oh man.
Like that's what that text shows that reverence for the masters.
Oh yeah.
You know? I mean, even the way he phrases it, made him cry like a bitch. All-time original rock star chef, genius, madman.
And that's the way. I mean, what worked about that is he had an instant ability to sniff through the bullshit. So listen, there's all kinds of famous people, celebrities, and well-accomplished people that he met that he didn't feel that way about. He would cut through that shit instantly. But if you were on his radar in that way, it was like total commitment to what you do.
You were in or you're out of the Anthony Bourdain club.
Exactly. Dude, you want to be in, man.
I know, man.
That list of people is like, that's a cool list to be on.
Yeah. Well, I just remember hanging out with him. It was one of those guys. He was one of the ones that I met that I was like pretty starstruck, like right away.
Yeah.
I said something really stupid, like, my wife says you're my boyfriend. Because I watch his show all the time.
Yeah.
She would just joke around, oh, you watch your boyfriend on TV?
Yeah.
I'm like, he's great. This guy's great. Stop. Leave him alone. But, when we were in Montana, that's when I realized, I always knew how hard he went. But when I was blasted out of my mind and he was like, where's that bottle? Where's those joints? And I was like, Jesus, man.
Yeah.
I can't even, I'm hanging on to the earth here.
Yeah. Well, that was a late night, man.
Yeah.
That one, I mean, listen, like in all fairness, not every night was quite like that. But we had a lot of fun that night for sure.
It was real fun. Yeah. And a really interesting, thoughtful dialogue around the campfire with Land Towney from Backwoods Country Hunters and Anglers and all these the other guys that were with us. These guys who it was good to get a different perspective on what going out and getting your own wild food is like.
Yeah.
And then having him cook it there, and it was delicious.
Yeah, it was awesome, but also being able to put those ideas on like a major network in prime time is pretty rare, man.